This was amazing. What can I say? I love this every second of the way. This book made me forget that I was reading. You ever have one of those experiences where you just get so consumed in the story that you don't realize you blink and then 75 pages pass and you have no idea how you got there? The time just simply slipped away from me. I just had such an amazing time, went on this incredible journey with Daphne, and I just loved it. Let's start with a spoiler-free, just overall reaction to this story. This is just as good as Emily Henry's other books. I've read almost all of her books, I think. My first book of hers that I ever read was Book Lovers. Loved it. Then ended up reading Beach Read, which I loved, but maybe not as much as Book Lovers. And then I read People We Meet on Vacation, and that is the book that always comes back to me. I think about that book a lot for some reason. Poppy and Alex are just constantly in my brain somewhere. Now I am constantly going to be thinking about Miles and Daphne. You've likely heard of this story. It's brand new. It hasn't even been out a month yet. It came out April 2024. I had to pick it up when I was at Books A Million. Luckily, it was like 30% off, which is crazy. I don't know why, but score. If you haven't heard anything about this, just a very quick synopsis. This funny story follows our main character, Daphne. She is engaged to who she thinks is the love of her life. His name is Peter. And right before the wedding, Peter decides to break off the relationship and their engagement because he realizes out of the blue that he is in love with his best friend from childhood. Her name is Petra. They've been best friends for years. He's always reassured Daphne nothing is ever going to happen between them. And Daphne's kind of made peace with this person in her fiance's life. This is also why I don't believe in male to female friendships, like to an extent. But to be best friends, there's something weird going on there. It makes me think of the bit that Matt Rife does talking about male to female friendships and why it's just simply not a good idea. Anyways, Daphne is heartbroken and she's just in shock that Peter has done this to her, runs off with his best friend, Petra, who is beautiful. She's gorgeous, she's fun, gets along with everybody. Everybody just seems to love this chick. So Peter runs off with her. Petra, by the way, is in a relationship, or was at the time, with this character named Miles. You can probably see where this is going. So now Miles and Daphne are left heartbroken, but now that Daphne is forced to move out of the home that she thought was hers and Peter's, so that way Petra can move in with Peter, she is now forced to live with Miles in this little apartment. Now things kind of develop from there. Of course, it's Emily Henry. It is a cutesy little love story. I really enjoyed it. I really like both of these characters, and I love all of the book-related references. So Daphne is a children's librarian, and she's just so cute. I really loved her character. Very passionate about reading, about books. She's constantly dropping book-related comments into the story, and I really enjoyed that piece of it. This is a book for book lovers. Again, I feel like I've been reading a lot of books for book lovers. I just finished reading The Storied Life of A.J. Thickery. Loved it. Also a book for book lovers. So I 100% recommend this. I 100% think you should read this. If you've ever read Emily Henry and like her stories, I feel very confident that you are not going to be disappointed by this. I was not disappointed by this. I 100% was just so consumed, so enthralled in this story, and I couldn't stop. I read this very, very quickly, simply because I couldn't put it down. I was up late reading it. Any break within my day that I had, I was trying to make some progress in here, and I got through it pretty quick. I also love Emily Henry's covers. How cool is that cover? I love the colors. I love the artwork, whoever does the artwork. The only complaint I have about it is on the very back. You can see that a picture of what I think is lemonade is on top of a book. So they're using a book as a coaster, which was a big no-no for me. Just no, don't do it. The only other problem I have about this aesthetically is actually when you remove the jacket color and you have this Pepto-Bismol color. I don't love it. I have to have the jacket on it because, I don't know, this just looks very Eastery. So I don't know, it's just not my color. I very much prefer whatever this purple blue cover thing is. As far as a main male character, Miles is so much more up my alley than a lot of these modern day romances that I've been reading, where the main male character is just aggressive and angry and grumpy, and just, that's unattractive to me. That is so unattractive to me. Miles is definitely more attractive to me as a reader. Now that's just my personal opinion. I don't like the bad boys. I've always liked the nice guys, and I like reading about the nice guys. Miles is a nice guy, so if that's your jam, please read this. I cannot encourage you more because I think that you'll like this character. I really love Daphne. I felt for this character, everything that she's going through. Not that I've experienced what she's going through, but I just felt her heartache. And not giving anything away, not in regards to her and Miles, but just, you know, the relationship she has with her mom and her dad. By the way, her mom is awesome. I loved Daphne's mom. She's just an independent, strong woman, has so many hobbies. She kind of just doesn't really need a man because her life is full. Her life is happy. And I really love that Emily Henry threw a character like that in here because I feel like we just don't see that enough. A lot of authors try to develop characters like that in love stories, but it usually just doesn't work because in the end, they end up pairing up with somebody. And that's fine. It's a love story. It's a romance. So that's great. But I think it's so important to have a character in a book who is just totally content, doing her own thing, being herself, just loving life and not necessarily requiring that romance to complete her life. As far as spice is concerned, there is spice in here. It is very tastefully done. And I don't say that about a lot of books, especially the more recent romances that are coming out. Yeah, if you look at Butcher and Blackbird, it is not tastefully done. But I also love that book. Anyways, that's a different video. I thought that there was a good amount of spice in here. It wasn't overwhelming. It was enough to not feel like there was something lacking, but it was just, I think it was good. I think it was executed perfectly. There was a great balance of spicy scenes in there. But also the thing that I loved about these characters, I love their dialogue. I love the way that they talk to each other. It was really very, very cute. I was totally bought into this love story, and if you get a chance, I think you should read this. The only Emily Henry book that I know of that I haven't read yet is Happy Place, and that is high up on my TBR because I really, really love her stories. She has a great way of writing. She just has a gift. And also, she looks like an amazing human being. If you don't follow her on social media, I think you should. Because yes, she's a professional, she's a writer, she's good at what she does, but she also has that goofy side that she's not afraid to let shine through. She posts really gorgeous, beautiful pictures of herself, while also on the very next slide, you slide over and she's making a goofy face, or maybe she's captured in a moment where she's talking or she's eating or something. She's an author I would love to meet. If she ever had a signing that's close to my location, I would go. I would make it happen. I would pay to go see her and meet her because I love her books. I think she's a very gifted, very talented writer and a great storyteller. If you haven't guessed, this is 5 stars, 100% 5 stars. I did get a little worried towards the end, and we'll talk about that in a minute, because there was a moment where some things were happening. I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I like that. But the way that she wrapped it up and concluded the story, I was fine with it. I really did enjoy it. All right. So that's enough about the review section of this book. Let's talk a little bit more about a couple things that bothered me in this book. And there are very few. I think there's actually only 2 things that I want to mention here. And they do contain spoilers. So let this be your warning that if you don't want any spoilers, if you want to read this book, please pause me here, skip to another video. I don't want to ruin any of the plot for you because I think everyone deserves a chance to experience this for what it is without being ruined by any spoilers. So here we go. The 2 things that bothered me, and they were super minor. The first one, very minor, and honestly, it's probably kind of petty of me. As encouragement from Julia, who is Miles' sister, and Ashley, who is Daphne's friend, she puts on her wedding dress just for fun. They just want to see what it looks like on her. Now, Emily Henry had to create a scenario to where it is just Daphne and Miles in the apartment, so she had to kind of get rid of the other 2 characters, meaning Julia and Ashley. And so in the middle of Daphne trying on her wedding dress, those 2 girls just ditch. I think they have to go get ice cream or something like that. Something in my brain is telling me they needed to go get ice cream sandwiches or something. You're telling me that your sudden craving for sweets and sugars couldn't wait another couple of minutes? Your friend is literally getting dressed in her wedding dress. You can't wait like 2 minutes and then all go together. I mean, that was just very ditchy of them and it was weird. I guess believable to an extent. I just know me as a friend, I wouldn't do that because it's kind of weird. I do not crave sweets to that extent. Maybe if one of them were pregnant, okay. But I just didn't really buy into that. I was just kind of like, oh, well, that's kind of crappy. They just left. And she is stuck in this wedding dress. Like, what if Miles hadn't come home when he had come home? She's having like a panic attack. She can't breathe because it's too tight. So that was my first complaint. Again, very minor, probably very petty. My second complaint is Miles just going completely silent on her. There is like a 24-hour period where she has no idea where he is. He hasn't talked to her. He has not come home, which is very concerning. There's a good reason why, but it's not explained until later on in the book. And then once it was, I kind of forgave him. I still think it was kind of crappy. They both have phones. He has every opportunity to text her, at least tell her he's not picking her up from the library. The poor woman is just sitting there waiting, and I felt so bad for her because she's been waiting her whole life, waiting on her dad to show up and just feeling disappointed over and over and over. And I just felt so deeply sorry for her. And like, not as in like she's pathetic, but just sorry that another human being let this woman down yet again. And I thought that was really crappy of Miles. Now, he was en route to try to go retrieve her dad because her dad just ditched her again and she was feeling very disappointed. So he was trying to do a nice thing, but he went about it very poorly and did not explain where he was going. He didn't explain the radio silence. He was just gone. And I didn't like that. I thought that was really freaking rude, honestly. Oh, the other thing that kind of ties into that is that I didn't like that Miles just dropped everything to help Petra move out. Yes, he still cares about her, but now that he has this new kind of relationship with Daphne, like, do you really want to risk screwing it up by, without even telling her, going to see your ex and helping your ex out? Like, how is she supposed to feel about that? Me personally, oh, I would have my husband's head. That is totally not okay with me, and he knows that's not okay with me. So I didn't like that he did that. He's a nice guy, so he's gonna help her out. I still think he should have said something to her, that way it wasn't a surprise. Daphne should not have had to hear about that from Peter, as in her ex-fiance, Peter. That should not have been a thing, so I didn't like him for that. I also didn't really care for his dabbling in weed. That's not something I have any interest in, and I don't really like when characters do that. Not that there's anything wrong with it necessarily. It's not like he's doing any hardcore drugs, but it still just wasn't my favorite. But at the end of the day, I really did like Miles. I thought he was a solid character. Not perfect, but I liked him. One thing that I really appreciate about this book as well is the characters didn't annoy me. A lot of the times in romance, you kind of hit this hiccup where both characters don't want to divulge their feelings for one another. They're afraid of getting hurt, blah, blah, blah. Daphne, I feel like, is a great communicator, and she really, as scared as she is, she doesn't really hold back on telling him things that she's feeling and things that she's experiencing. Yeah, there's hesitations, but it's not annoying. So I really deeply appreciated that, because that is one of my pet peeves about romances, is the slow burn and then the characters just not communicating with each other out of fear or whatever the heck reason it is. This didn't bother me. I thought this was so well done. I loved the characters. I loved the storyline, loved their banter. I just loved it. It is 5 stars. I was a little worried. The last, I want to say, was like 70 pages. I was worried that my opinion was going to change because of what was going on with Miles and the fact that he just went MIA, and I thought that was really uncool. And I'm thinking, what possibly could have caused this character to just disappear when he is in love with Daphne? How is he just going to disappear? You don't do that to someone that you love and make them believe the worst, or make them consider that the worst case scenario has occurred. But the way Emily Henry concluded it, it turned it back to a 5-star read for me. At the very worst, even if things didn't pan out the way that I was hoping for, I was still gonna give this like a 4.75. It's a 5-star. I think at its lowest rating for me, it would be a 4.75, but this is 5 stars. Really, my biggest complaint is the Pepto-Bismol pink underneath this cover, but honestly, I loved it. Do I recommend it? 100%. If you are a romance reader, you have to read this one. Is this worth it? 100%. It is worth the hype, and I think that you should read this. Leave me some comments. Have you read this book? Did you love it as much as I did? I hope the answer is yes. But if it's not, I still want to hear from you. What did you think of this? Did you love the characters? Did you love the situation that they were in? It is kind of bizarre, but honestly, stuff like this kind of happens. So I felt like it was realistic. Maybe that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you found this helpful, or if you like hearing about bookish content, please feel free to subscribe, and I'll catch you on the flip side.